Welcome to Victory Fellowship Church. It is 9 a.m. on a Saturday. It's 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning. Anyway, don't ask me where that came from. Well, maybe it won't come out anymore. We're in Leviticus. And we're not going to be there for long because this is the last chapter. Chapter 27 of Leviticus. So if you want to turn your Bibles to chapter 27 of Leviticus, that's where we will be reading in a moment. We have three of our wonderful church members with us this morning, live in the studio. Let's see if I can put them on. I know Rick is not overly excited about being on the camera, but he's just so good looking. We got to put him on there. Well, maybe not. Maybe the camera is honoring his wish. There. Okay, so on the left is Lynn, and there's Rick looking studious in the middle, and over here is lovely Candy, and it is her birthday today. Happy birthday to you. So that's kind of cool. And we're going to go back to the front camera and give those guys a break. And I know I need a haircut. I'm starting to look like Dave Letterman after he retired. Pretty soon I'll look like one of the elders of the Amish churches. I don't know. I'm thinking about it. Maybe I'll let it grow. I don't know. We'll see what happens. People will come. I'll eat grasshoppers like John the Baptist, and people will come from miles around. Jamie R. Young, a faithful viewer, is watching. Hi, Jamie. Good to see you. We're in Leviticus chapter 27, and we're going to start with verse 1. Now the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the children of Israel and say to them, when a man consecrates by a vow certain persons to the Lord according to your valuation, if your valuation is of a male from 20 years old up to 60 years old, then your valuation shall be 50 shekels of silver, according to the shekel of the sanctuary. If it is a female, then your valuation shall be 30 shekels. And if from 5 years up to 20 years old, then your valuation for a male shall be 20 shekels, and for a female 10 shekels. And if from a month old up to 5 years old, then your valuation for a male shall be 5 shekels of silver, and for a female your valuation shall be 3 shekels of silver. And if from 60 years old and above, if it is a male, then your valuation shall be 15 shekels, and for a female, 10 shekels. But if he's too poor to pay your valuation, then he shall present himself before the priest, and the priest shall set a value for him according to the ability of him who vowed. The priest shall value him. If it is an animal that men may bring as an offering to the Lord, all that anyone gives to the Lord shall be holy. He shall not substitute it or exchange it for a good for bad or bad for good. And if he at all exchanges an animal for an animal, then both it and the one exchanged for it shall be holy. If it is an unclean animal, which they do not offer as a sacrifice to the Lord, then he shall present the animal before the priest, and the priest shall set a value for it. Whether it is good or bad, as you, the priest, value it, so it shall be. But if he wants at all to redeem it, then he must add 1/5 to your valuation. And when a man declares his house to be holy to the Lord, then the priest shall set a value for it, whether it's good or bad, as the priest values it, so it shall stand. If he who dedicated it wants to redeem his house, then he must add 1/5 of the money of your valuation to it, and it shall be his. If a man dedicates to the Lord part of a field of his possession, then your valuation shall be according to the seed for it. A homer of barley seed shall be valued at 50 shekels of silver. If he dedicates his field from the year of Jubilee, according to your valuation it shall stand. But if he dedicates his field after the Jubilee, then the priest shall reckon to him the money due according to the years that remain till the year of Jubilee. In case you weren't here when we were studying Jubilee, every 50 years would be the year of Jubilee, and it would be basically a reset. So let's say you purchased your neighbor's field, and then 39 years later, it's the year of Jubilee. You have to give that field back to your neighbor. He gets to take control of it again. And so you would value possessions that you would sell according to the year of Jubilee, because if you're a neighbor and Jubilee is coming up in 2 years and your neighbor wants to buy your field, you're not going to get the high price you would have gotten if he'd have had it for 50 years. He may have been able to bring in 25, 30 rounds of crops, leaving a little bit of it to rest. But because it's coming up in 2 years, he won't make much off of it, so its value would be lower. But some of this valuation I do not understand. Let's see if Henry gives me some information here. Let's see. If a man consecrated himself or a child to the service of the tabernacle to be employed there, that person shall be consecrated, and God will accept the goodwill. But as far as he had no occasion to use their service, a whole tribe being appropriate to the use of it, those that were thus vowed were to be redeemed, and the money paid for their redemption was employed for the repair of the sanctuary. Okay, now I'm starting to get a little bit of what this is talking about. They're saying, look, if you've got a young man, I was paying attention to the ones that were over 60 years old. Don't ask me why. But they were worth so much money. Well, what did that mean?
Not much.
It meant that they were dedicated to God and they were to be used at the church. But if they were dedicated to God and they were not used at the church, they could be redeemed, purchased, and you would give the money that they were worth, so to speak, according to this valuation. And a lot of times that valuation would take place by the priest, by a third party. It's probably a good thing that happens that way, don't you think? Because I think if we evaluate our own value, our own worth, we might tend to put it up. Well, actually, there's all different experiences that people have had in life. Some would evaluate their own worth as being much lower than what it is. Yes?
How does that affect with today's standards where
I know it doesn't.
we need to pay women the same price as men?
Well, that's a worldly. Let's not talk about what we pay people. Let's talk about what God designed people to be. He designed women to be women and men to be men.
True.
And because of that, men are capable of doing things that women can't. And of course, women are capable of doing things that men can't. I've not yet heard of a man who gave birth, or fed a baby. But God never intended men and women to do the same things or to be equal. How do I know that? Well, I know it right from creation, because he didn't make man and woman. I know I got your attention now, don't I? God made man. And then the Bible says he made woman for man. As a matter of fact, some of you might not want to hear this, but the head of man is God. But the Bible also says the head of woman, now listen, is man. Oh my goodness, Dave Russell, they're going to burn the place down. That's not popular. Well, we have to decide, do we want to go with what's popular? Do we want to go with what's politically correct? Or do we want to go with the truth? Each of us has to make that decision. Well, why does God hate women? Now let me just think this through. Let's examine this together, because we hear that question from modern women. Why did God hate women to make them subservient to men? Yeah, well, let's see how they were treated. They were given honor. Men used to lay their coats down over mud puddles so that their feet would not get wet. Why are you laughing?
Because you're looking at me.
That wouldn't you think that? Well, you're the only woman here.
The mud puddle for your life.
Wouldn't you think that would be honorable?
Mhm.
And have you seen men carry women through higher water? I have. You see it when there's flooding. Yeah, you're right. God doesn't treat men and women equally. He gives honor and blessing to the woman if he's a godly man. And so women what have you done? You've traded that special place that God has for you, that special place of being loved and nurtured because of your support for your husband. That's really why you get loved and nurtured, by the way, in case you didn't know that. Some women do nothing but gripe at their husbands all day long and then say, oh, he doesn't love me. Well, are you being the woman that God created you to be? Or are you just a woman who is out to be equal, to go after your rights? You have a right to be the woman that God created you to be. That's the only right you have. All of our rights are rights that God gives us, not man. Man can take those rights away, or God can take man's rights away in a flash. You know, there's a person who is going through a hassle right now in life that I can think of, and there's some powerful people around this person. And she might think to herself, how can I fight against this foe? Or how can I stand up against that foe? Well, you got to remember something, especially if you're that person. You got to remember that those who are with you are greater than those who are with them. Look at, what was his name? Pharaoh. Pharaoh was a mean king. And he would not let God's people go. And God handled him easily. In fact, he did it over time, not because he couldn't have done it immediately, but he wanted to continue to show that God's more powerful than any man on earth. And so if you're a woman and you're in a position of being abused, that's a big popular term today, abuse. It can take many forms. But if you're a woman and your husband is beating you and checking up on you every minute of the day, and you're feeling all oppressed, remember that you're not alone. God didn't put you in a place to be oppressed. He put you in a high place under him. And you, although the man is your head, so to speak, in other words, you can't have two bosses. Could you imagine if every job we worked at had two bosses and they had it in for one another? Our brother here who's at the table working at a new place, imagine if there were two bosses there and you come in and the one boss tells you, well, I don't want you to park your car where you got it. Park it 2 parking places over. And so you go out, because you're a pretty nice guy, and you don't want trouble, you go out and you move it two spots over. Well, then the next boss comes, and he comes up to you and says, I don't want you parking your car where you parked it. Move it back to where it was. Can you imagine what life would be like with two bosses? It's like that with a marriage.
Right.
You can't have two bosses. Well, yeah, but you don't know my husband. He knows nothing about the stuff that he would decide. It'd be terrible. Well, listen. God says he's the head. He's also the priest of the house. Now, a wise leader, listen to me carefully, a wise leader listens to the people around him. We have a staff meeting here at Victory Fellowship Church, and I know some people might think this, but I don't come in to convince people that what we're doing is all perfect and right and everything like that. I come in with a question. What did you guys think of the service? What can we do to make it better? What did we do that made it worse? See, a wise leader listens to those who are around him. They don't have to be co-leaders. And if you're a husband, you're a leader of a household. You'll listen to your wife. Listen to her. Discern, is what she telling you of God? If it is, take heed, because there are men who did not listen who ended up dead. And so God is more than able to hear the cry of a woman to him, asking God that he move on her behalf with her husband. You're raising your hand again.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, the way I've read it is the woman is to be the man's helpmate, not his slave.
Okay.
So that means he should value her, because she's helping him.
Right. So, if you didn't hear that, he says the way he understands it is a woman is to be a man's helpmate, but not slave. Well, I guess we would have to know how you treat your slaves. You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
Back in the day of slavery, do you know that there were some that didn't want to go? Because their owners didn't treat them with violence and with, what is that big word that they use all the time? That word,
Oppression.
oh no, the one where it's because you're black. What was it? What did you
I
say?
said oppression, but
Yeah, this is a big thing. It's the race card.
discrimination.
Race. Yeah, discrimination is it, but I can't think of what it. Racist. Okay. See, you can work with people of a different background and different color and different race and be gracious to them and be loving to them. You don't have to be a racist. And I believe that probably back when slavery, now don't get me wrong, I'm not saying slavery was right or biblical. The Bible does talk about slavery, and the Bible says if you can be free, be free. But otherwise, the Bible says, serve your master, serve them. See, all of us serve people. We all serve somebody. If you've got a job, you're serving your employer. And you can go in with a bad attitude and say, I'm not going to give them 1 minute more. I'm not going to do one job that's outside of my area. I am not going to be nice to them because they're not nice to me. Or you can go in and say, I am going to be the best employee they've ever had, And God blesses that, because what happens is if you are a Christian and they know that you're a Christian, then they're going to look at you and look at your life. And what they want to see is they want to see the evidence of your faith in God. And if you're calling yourself, that's why when I go out to eat, the one thing I want to make sure happens is that the tipping is generous. Why? Because I've been an entertainer and I've been in restaurants and I've listened to the waitresses. And unfortunately, some Christians don't tip. And I don't know why they wouldn't, but sometimes when there's a big table and the servers bring the food and they sit and they watch as the people bow their heads and pray before eating, they kind of secretly on the inside go, oh no, no tip here, you know. But I always make it a habit to make it such that when they look at that bill after we've signed it and after we've left, they go, wow, these guys are generous. And what is that really? That's appreciating people. And as we appreciate people, God gets glory and honor if they know that we're Christians. So then this valuation that we've been reading about, which basically says, look, if you're a little kid and your mom dedicates you to the Lord, and they can't use you, well, give them $15 instead. And if you're under 60 and you dedicate yourself to the Lord and they can't use you, well, you give them $150. Or if you're a woman, they give you $75. Well, that valuation has nothing to do with your worth before God. It has to do with the type of work that's useful in the temple. And men did the slaying of the bulls and things like that. I'm not sure what all the women did. If they did a lot of cleanup, that would be very worthwhile to me. I wouldn't want to have to clean all that. Yeah, exactly. So that's what we've been talking about. And now, here we go. No person under the ban who may become doomed to destruction among men shall be redeemed, but shall surely be put to death. And all the tithe of the land, whether of the seed of the land or the fruit of the tree, is the Lord's. It is holy to the Lord. That's something a lot of people don't realize. They think, well, I don't really want to give God anything. Well, you're misappreciating what really is real, and that is God's tithe is already his. So when you hold back that 10% of your increase, you're robbing God. That's what it says in Malachi. Will a man rob God? And the people said, well, how? And he said, by not bringing the whole tithe into the storehouse. So don't do that. Don't rob God. Well, is he going to get me back? Our God is merciful. He knows what you need, like the sparrows. One doesn't drop to the ground without him knowing it. He knows the hairs on your head, what their number is. So in my case and in Rick's case, it's pretty easy. We don't have too many to count. But he knows that, but he owns the increase. And if we don't give him our increase, we hinder his blessing. How do I know that? I know that because the Bible says, give and it shall be given back to you. With the same measure that you give, you'll receive. So be generous in life. Be a blessing to others, and God definitely will be a blessing to you. Now, concerning the tithe of the herd of the flock, whatever passes under the rod, the 10th one shall be holy to the Lord. He shall not inquire whether it is good or bad, nor shall he exchange it. And if he exchanges it at all, then both it and the one exchanged for it shall be holy. It shall not be redeemed. These are the commandments which the Lord commanded Moses for the children of Israel on Mount Sinai. All right, that ends Leviticus. And now we go to Numbers. Yay! All right, so what we're going to see in Numbers is a lot of numbers. And sometimes they're not really, they may have significance, but we're probably not going to read everything that deals with the number of people. We'll skip over some. We'll skip. So let's just take it at the beginning and we'll see how to deal with it. Numbers 1, verse 1. Now the Lord spoke to Moses in the wilderness of Sinai, in the tabernacle of meeting, so that's in the church, on the first day of the second month in the second year after they'd come out of the land of Egypt, saying, take a census of all the congregation of the children of Israel by their families, by their fathers' houses, according to the number of names, every male individually, from 20 years old and above, all who are able to go to war in Israel. You and Aaron shall number them by their armies. And with you there shall be a man from every tribe, each one the head of his father's house. These are the names of the men who shall stand with you. From Reuben, Elizur, Simeon, Shelomiel, and Zurishaddai, Judah, Nahshon, Issachar, Zebulun, from the sons of Joseph, Ephraim, Elishama, from Manasseh, Garnaleel, Benjamin, Aden, Gideoni, Dan, Azer, and all these people. These were chosen from the congregation, leaders of their fathers' tribes, heads of the division in Israel. Then Moses and Aaron took these men who had been mentioned by name, and they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the second month. And they recited their ancestry by families, by their father's house, according to the names, from 20 years old and above, each one individually. As the Lord commanded Moses, so he numbered them in the wilderness of Sinai. Now the children of Reuben, were numbered, 45,000. Another group was numbered, 59,000. Another one, 45,000, 74,000, 54,000, 57,000. So there were a lot of people that were able to go to war. Those who were numbered, 40,000, 32,000, 35,000, 41,000, 53,000, and 305,050 altogether. So the Levites were not numbered among them by their fathers' tribes. For the Lord had spoken to Moses, saying, only the tribe of Levi you shall not number, nor take a census of them among the children of Israel. Those were the priests. But you shall appoint the Levites over the tabernacle of testimony, over all its furnishings, over all things that belong to it. They'll carry the tabernacle and all its furnishings. They shall attend to it and camp around the tabernacle. And when the tabernacle is to go forward, the Levites shall take it down. When the tabernacle is to be set up, the Levites shall set it up. The outsider who comes near shall be put to death. The children of Israel shall pitch their tents, everyone by his own camp, everyone by his own standard, according to their armies. But the Levites shall camp around the tabernacle of testimony, that there may be no wrath on the congregation of the children of Israel. And the Levites shall keep charge of the tabernacle of the testimony. Thus the children of Israel did, according to all that the Lord commanded Moses. So they did. All right, so now we're at chapter 2 in Numbers. And the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, every one of the children of Israel shall camp by his own standard, beside the emblems of his father's house. They shall camp some distance from the tabernacle of meeting. On the east side, toward the rising of the sun, those of the standard of the forces with Judah shall camp according to their armies. And Nahshon, the son of Amminadab, shall be the leader of the children of Judah. And his army was numbered at 74,600. Those who camp next to him shall be the tribe of Issachar. And Nathaniel, the son of Zur, shall be the leader of the children of Issachar. And his army was numbered at 54,400. Then comes the tribe of Zebulun and Eliab. And his army was numbered at 57,400. All who were numbered according to their armies, 186,400. These shall break camp first. On the south side will be the forces with Reuben and children of Reuben, Eliezer, and his army was numbered at 46,500. And those who camped next to him, tribe of Simeon, and his army was 59,300. And then the tribe of Gad, and their army was 45,650. All who were numbered according to their armies of the forces with Reuben, 151,450. They'll be the second to break camp. And the tabernacle of meeting shall move out with the camp of the Levites in the middle of the camps, everyone in their place by their standards. Now on the west side, there were children of Ephraim, and their army was 40,500. And then tribe of Manasseh was 32,200. And then the tribe of Benjamin and Abidan, and his army was 35,400. So that all those that numbered according to the armies of the forces with Ephraim, 180,100. They'll be the third to break camp. The standard of the forces with Dan shall be on the north side, according to their armies, and his army was numbered at 62,000. Those who were next to him, the tribe of Asher, and their army 41,500. Then the tribe of Naphtali, and their army 53,400. And all who were numbered with the forces of Dan, in other words, that whole area, was 157,600, and they'll break camp last. So they broke camp starting at the east, going south, west, and lastly north. These are the ones who were numbered of the children of Israel by their fathers' houses. All who were numbered according to their armies were 603,550. But the Levites were not numbered among the children of Israel, just as the Lord commanded. Thus the children of Israel did according to all that the Lord commanded Moses. So they camped by their standards, and so they broke camp, each one by his family, according to their fathers' houses. All right. Numbers 3.
That's a big group, 600,000.
That's not counting
To
women and
move
children, and
and-
that's just fighting age.
Just
Right.
fighting age and
Imagine that.
surrounding. So it was like about 150 per thousand per group.
Just trying to be organized and move and,
And I see them all surrounding the tabernacle. So they're
right?
like a protecting circle. So, well, this is probably a pretty good place for us to break for today. We'll pick it up next week at Numbers 3:1, and we will get through those numbers. I'm sure there'll be some good stories, and we got some good chapters coming up: Deuteronomy, Joshua, and we're gonna learn a lot about God as we study the Old Testament. So God bless you. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget, next Saturday at 9 a.m., Also, hey, tomorrow is Sunday. That's the day that we get together and honor God. And we bless him. And we bring our tithes. And we just thank him for what he's done in our life. There's nothing better than that. Come and fellowship with his people, your brothers and sisters. Be encouraged. Be strengthened. And come and encourage and strengthen someone else. You may say, well, I don't need anything. Well, good. Bring what you got. Because there's needy people who need to feel the presence of God in you. So come and be a blessing tomorrow. Service starts at 11. God bless you. We will see you then. Have a good day.